fishing vessel whose seasoned crew is out on these waters year-round. My chances of tracking down Humboldt squid are looking good. We head out into the vast Pacific Ocean. To find the squid, we need deep water, and we have to travel for days. As all signs of land disappear, I rapidly lose my sense of direction. It becomes sickeningly apparent that this is a far cry from the rivers and lakes that I'm used to. We've all been ill on this trip, not just the film crew, the boat crew as well. I thought the captain had been okay. Apparently the captain's been ill. As the days and nights blur, we continue further out to sea, and there's no respite. The relentless sway of the boat is inescapable. As soon as you actually go inside, you don't have that reference point of the horizon unless you shut your eyes, and you start feeling ill very quickly. Even the sea-hardened fishermen who do this for a living struggle with the tortuous pitch of the boat. But for these men to go to such efforts to find these squid, the catch must be worth the struggle to get here. Finally, after what seems like an endless journey, I'm told we're floating above squid territory. There's no way of reaching the bottom, so we deploy a drift anchor to steady the boat, and we get our lines out. Here we go. The technique is basic, just hand lines and that vicious jig, coated in phosphorescent paint so it glows in the dark depths. This ghostly light, combined with a scrap of dead fish and the jig's movement, should trigger the squid's natural predatory instinct. I'm slightly concerned about the side of the boat here. I mean, no doubt it's all in the name of efficiency, so you can pull squid over easily, but that's actually lower than my knee, so I'm thinking if the boat's tipping a bit, if the surface is slippery, I can imagine it'd be very easy to go over the side. When Raphael, the fisherman I met in Mexico, got in the water with squid, it was only seconds before they attacked. And the fisherman here warned me that when men fall overboard, the squid converge and drag them down. And generally they're not seen again. I'm in Peru, hoping to catch a Humboldt squid to determine whether it is in fact capable of attacking and killing fishermen. After 3 long days out at sea, I finally have something big on the end of my line. I can see it. There it is. This feels big. Okay. The writhing predator fires ink as a defense mechanism. Okay, come on. There's a splash of different colours here. Out of the water, this squid's colour flashes from a devil-like red to inky black. So this is the beast. This is a Humboldt squid. Just what a weird animal it is. You have the mouth in the middle there, surrounded by tentacles, and inside there you can see the beak. I have no doubt this is what caused the scar on Raphael's shoulder, and is the brutal weapon behind the other unusual wounds I heard about. It's the key piece of evidence that ties all my stories together. And they have more weird anatomy. This is the siphon. This is what it squirts ink out of. These bizarre-looking predators are like something out of a horror movie. An alien animal totally unlike any fish I have ever caught. Quite an aggressive beast. Going back. This squid is a decent size, but I'm told they grow twice as long. Perhaps 8 times the weight. And there's something even more terrifying about these animals. Within seconds, another line goes. And they keep coming. That wasn't ink. Oh, there's lots stone here.
These cannibalistic devils rise from the depths to attack other squids struggling on the fishing jigs. I'm told they hunt in packs of more than 1,000. Then, as suddenly as they first appeared, they're gone. But I'm left in no doubt that these are the very same Diablo Rojo that invaded Mexico. And they are definitely the animal that has been attacking divers in the US. But what about the 5 dead bodies that started this whole investigation? Since I was unable to track down the marine biologist or find any hard evidence, I now suspect that story was a hoax. But I think this is a rare case where reality is worse than fiction. Although the story that launched me on this investigation turned out to be made up, the creature that I found in the end, well, it's something that you just couldn't make up. It's all too easy to imagine falling into the water, 2 or 3 of them, grab hold of you and take you down to the depths. Anyone killed by Humboldt squid wouldn't wash up on a beach. They would disappear without a trace.
For me, the thing that's really creepy about them is the fact that they're here one minute, gone the next, and they can just pop up somewhere completely different.
This is a species that travelled 3,000 miles from Peru to Mexico. Where is it going to turn up next?
Who knows, it might be coming to a beach near you.
I'm Jeremy Wade. I'm an explorer and biologist. Fishing is my passion.
One of the most extraordinary encounters of my life.
Time and again, this passion has helped me solve both freshwater and marine mysteries.
This thing really is a river monster.
Now, I'm taking on the biggest and maybe most complex investigation of my career.
This was an absolute beast.
A dramatic story of untold deaths. Of 2,500 souls shipwrecked in the mid-Atlantic. And the horrific fate of over 1,000 who never made it.
The screams were just terrible.
A story that's never been fully told.
Right here, fin on the surface.
This investigation will lead me on a global journey to uncover what really happened in the water that night. It will take me deeper than I've ever been before, down into the abyss, to confront sea monsters in their own domain.
I feel like an astronaut landing on the moon.
The sinking of the British passenger steamer RMS Laconia has haunted me since I first heard about it. It's one of the most famous stories of the Second World War. I've learned about dramatic new evidence that suggests there's far more to this story than first meets the eye. On September the 12th, 1942, the RMS Laconia was sailing in the mid-Atlantic bound for England. She was carrying civilians and soldiers returning home, and hundreds of Italian prisoners of war bound for internment camps in the UK. Several days from safety and hundreds of miles from land, she was attacked by a German U-boat. 2 torpedoes struck her starboard side in quick succession. The Laconia started to take in water fast. Accounts talk of stunned passengers and crew scrambling to escape. Italian POWs broke out of their holding cells and tried to force their way off the stricken ship. Some attempted to board the already overloaded lifeboats, but were fought off by Allied soldiers. The scene turned into a bloodbath. At first glance, this is an open and shut case. For decades it has been assumed that most of the passengers and POWs drowned, and those who didn't were taken by sharks. But I've always wondered whether that was the whole story. My previous investigations have often shown that the answer is seldom what is first assumed. And now I have a chance to find the true culprits. Because very deep inside this archive, I've discovered a forgotten cache of eyewitness accounts, full of clues that could turn this story on its head.
Many hundreds of people ended up in the water where some mysteriously just disappeared, dragged beneath the surface with only their life jackets ever re-emerging.
Bodies found by rescuers days later had been attacked by creatures in the water, and of those, a number showed bite marks that still don't point to any obvious perpetrator. This new evidence suggests multiple mystery attackers, but what were they? With over 1,000 victims, this would be a huge and complex case. But using the accounts of those who lived through it, I'm going to find out what happened to those who didn't. The people who wrote those eyewitness accounts are long gone, but there is one survivor who I have managed to find.
I'm on my way to meet a woman who was actually on the Laconia that night. She is one of only a handful of survivors who are still alive today. At the time, she was just a 14-year-old girl, and she was fleeing the war in Singapore, and she was travelling with her mother, her father, and her brother.
What happened when suddenly it was no longer normality on the
Well,
water?
it was 8 o'clock, and the first torpedo struck. It was awful. But by the time you'd gathered your senses, the second one hit.
Josephine and her family only had minutes to get up on deck.
My father threw the life jackets at us, and he said, "Come on, the lifeboat station." We dropped everything, rushed out of the cabin. The screams were just terrible. It was total chaos. They lowered our lifeboat to the sea, and the minute it hit the water, people were trying to climb into it as well. They were having to get pushed away. We couldn't take any more. I witnessed an Italian prisoner of war being shot by a man in our lifeboat. He was trying to go on and he was shot. That was war. War at its worst. So the men rowed, and they rowed, and they rowed, and we managed to get quite away from the ship. And when we looked, the stern came up, and then it went down, and then everywhere was pitch black. The next day, I realised the water was pink, because there was so much blood. And that was when I realised that there were sharks, because we could see the tips of the fins at one stage, and then, now and again you get one a bit nearer, because they'd been circling the boat. It was awful.
I'm not surprised that Josephine saw sharks. I know they are part of this story. But tellingly, she says that she didn't see them until the next day. I know that in the immediate aftermath, people were attacked by something. But if it wasn't sharks, then what was it?
This is the biggest case I've looked into by far. When you're looking at something that happens in the middle of 75 million square miles of ocean. Where on earth do you start?
The Laconia's last recorded position was 5 degrees south and 11 degrees west in around 12,000 feet of water, 700 miles from mainland Africa. Trying to operate at the site of the sinking would be a logistical impossibility. But I get lucky. I received permission to travel to a military base. A tiny speck of land, just 250 miles from where the Laconia went down, known as Ascension Island.
Ascension is one of the most remote islands anywhere on Earth. It's right slap bang in the middle of the Atlantic, sort of halfway between Africa and South America. But most importantly for me, it's the closest I can get to the scene of the incident.
Ascension is a British and US military base, and travel to the island is heavily controlled.
Yes, Ascension down here.
Gaining access to Ascension is one thing, but now my whole investigation hinges on what fish I find when I get there. I've managed to gain permission to travel to one of the most remote and secretive islands on Earth, Ascension Island. No one lives here permanently. The vast majority of the 800 or so personnel are on military contracts. What they do is not public knowledge, and some areas of the island are strictly off limits. But it's the vast expanse of water around this speck of land that interests me.
Very few people get to fish here, either recreationally or commercially, which means that the species that are here now are going to be the same ones that were here in 1942.
There's a 200-mile exclusion zone around the island. So although these waters are fished by a handful of locals, they've been protected from large-scale commercial fishing for decades. To help me assemble a suspect list for the Laconia disaster, I brought with me the eyewitness accounts from the archive. But they are proving as frustrating as they are useful, tantalizingly hinting at a number of underwater attackers without providing the detail that could lead me to a positive ID. But one thing does come across clearly, and it flies in the face of conventional wisdom in such cases. The accounts are unanimous in stating that sharks were not the first attackers on the scene. So what was?
One thing I'm coming across again and again is that a lot of the people in the water that night speak of being attacked by schools of large, aggressive silvery fish. Take this from Ian Peel, who was one of the many people who was in the water who hadn't been able to get a place in a lifeboat. Immediately I heard cries of shark. It wasn't a shark I saw, but huge numbers of large silvery fish slicing and attacking at will. Even more formidable than a shark.
The obvious culprit is the barracuda, a fish I've encountered before. But I can eliminate them from the suspect list because, ferocious as they are, they tend to school and hunt around coastal reefs, not in deep open ocean. So what exactly was Ian Peel describing? The mid-Atlantic is new territory for me, and I'm working with limited information. But somewhere out there, there's the silvery predator that was first on the Laconia scene, and I've got to work out a way to find it. The best way to cover a large search area is to use a technique called trolling.
With Lettie fishing, the biggest question is where are you going to put your bait? And in this immensity of water, that's a very big question. With the island here, there's a plateau where it gradually gets deeper, up to a couple of hundred feet, and then in a very short space, it plunges down to a couple of thousand, and then keeps on going. What we're going to do is going to fish on the beach and just go along the drop-off with lures out the back.
The survivors' accounts describe the fish that drew first blood as being medium-sized and fast. So that's what I'm going for.
The big rod we're going to put this is, you see that mimics the fish in the water. This is quite significant because what happens, the water catches that as we're moving and it pushes it down. It makes it dive, and it gets a good wiggle on. Serious hooks on here. Thick wire, because quite likely if anything hits this, it's going to have teeth. In fact, you can see it's been hit a few times by some toothy creatures. So off we go.
We work our way along the drop-off. To increase my chances of a take in the vast mid-Atlantic, I have two different lures working at the surface and two deeper down.
The lures have definitely got the attention of the birds, so they've got to look very convincing. The fact is, it's something happening on the surface here which just triggers the attention. And I hope the same will happen beneath the surface as well, getting fish to come up and investigate.
As first on the Laconia scene, my silvery suspect was clearly curious and quick.